In this video, I would like to show you how to do citations. If we look at this assignment from week 2, the species accumulation curve, we can see down here it is asking you for a reference to a reading, and it might be one from week 1 where they talked about biases, and also research on bird richness in the community that you're taking your samples in. If you're going to put in references, we need to make sure that we know how to do it correctly. So we're going to follow APA 7 format when we include those types of references. So let's take a look at how we might do that. Let's say we're going to go back to week 1 and we're going to look at one of our articles on bias. So if I go into the week 1 learning materials, I'm going to take a look at this first one here, describing a population, where it does talk a little bit about sampling bias. Now if I click on this, it's going to give me a PDF that talks about describing a population. This is in chapter 1, and this is a lab book, and if I go all the way to the end, I can see that it gives me some of the relevant information for this book. It's the title of the book, we have the author here, we have the publisher down here. So what we want to do is to cite this book in our assignment. We're going to create an in-text citation. Our in-text citation is where we have used information from a source in our writing. So there's a couple of ways we could do this here. We can use the author's name as part of the sentence. So to avoid bias, Kingsolver 2006, that's the year of this publication, suggests that, and then we would finish this sentence. Or we can just write the sentence, and then at the end of the sentence we can put the author's name and the year in parentheses, and then the period after that. So there's two ways to do this in-text citation. Now at the end of your paper, you're going to have a literature cited or a reference section. And the way this is going to look is we're going to have the author's name, comma, the initials. We are going to put the year in parentheses in APA format. Now some of this varies depending on what format you're using. This is the title of the book. This is the publisher. Now let me take you to a place that can show you how to do a variety of different types of citations, because they're not all going to be the same. Sometimes you'll have a website, sometimes you might have a journal article, sometimes it's a book like we have here. So you'll have a variety of different types. But each time you're going to have an in-text citation and an end citation, which is what we see down here in the literature cited. So what I want to do is I want to go back over into Canvas, and I want to go to library resources. There's various things that you can see. The first one I'll show you is this Comms Hub, which talks a little bit about why we cite and working with source information. The main thing I wanted to show you in this one is it kind of gives you a generic layout of an APA 7 citation structure. So we have author's name here, we have the year here in parentheses. Notice we're separating these by periods here. This was the title of an article. So if this was an article that we found in a scientific journal, this would be the title of the article. This is the journal name. So what journal did I find that article in? Volume and issue, and then pages, and then you can put a URL if you have a URL for it. Let's go back to the library online. The other place I can show you is here in this step-by-step research guide, because this will give you a variety of different types of citations that you can use. So if I go in here and I go to cite, come over here and I can select the type of citation that we're going to be using, which is APA, and then here it's showing us how to cite those different things. So in the text it's not going to be a whole lot different. It's always going to be author and year, but at the end it will be. Here is how we would do a book. So we had the author, the date, the title of the book, and the publisher, and that's what we saw in our document here. Author, year, title of book, and the publisher. If it's a chapter in a book, then we're going to indicate that as well. So this is a chapter that is written by a different author. So we have an editor that essentially got different authors to write different chapters, and then they put that all together. So these are the editors that put it together. This is the name of the book itself, but back here, this is the title of that chapter in that book. We still have the publisher here. If it's a printed journal, here's our authors, year, title of the article, title of the journal right here, volume, issue, and then page numbers. Sometimes it's an online journal, and so if it is and you can give a DOI for it, then go ahead and put that in. Now let me show you a couple of other things. One of the things I want to show you is what you do if you have a paper or a book that is authored by more than one person. In this example, we had a single author. If there is one other author, then we can just put both authors here. So we just list the other author. We do the same thing here. You can use and, or you can also do an ampersand. And of course you would list both authors down here. If you have 3 or more authors, you're going to use et al. AL is an abbreviation, so you put a period behind it. And then you would do the same thing in this type of an in-text citation. So that is 3 or more authors. 2, you list both. 3 or more, you use et al. Now you only use et al. Up here in your in-text citation, where you actually cite it in the paper. Down in your reference section in the literature cited, you would list all authors here. The other thing I wanted to mention is that if you provide a DOI, like a web address, you want to make sure that it goes to the full text of the paper, not just the abstract. So if it only goes to the abstract, just leave that part off. If it goes to the full text, leave it there. When you use a web address, you still want to include the entire full proper APA citation format. The link doesn't bypass that. And just remember, you have these examples here in this library online in Unity. Inside the research process step-by-step guide, you can find all of this here. One other thing I want to mention about citations is that you need to verify that where you place that citation in the text, the information actually does come from that source you have cited, because that establishes your credibility. If you tell me it comes from someplace and I go look up that article and I don't find that information anywhere in that article, then there is doubt about the credibility of the paper that you've written. So you want to make sure that you're properly citing, you're giving credit to the proper source. And in science, you also want to make sure that you are backing up some of your statements with evidence from these articles. So particularly when you start getting into looking at primary research, these are papers that are documenting new data from a research study. So you'll see a method section, you'll see a data analysis section, as opposed to, say, a review article where they're just sort of summarizing what other people have done. And what you want to do is you want to pull in data, because that's what we are doing as scientists. We're making statements, but we're backing them up with data from research studies. So when you're citing, try to remember that what you want to cite is not just a general statement, but actual data from some of these sources, evidence that shows that. So if you're going to tell me that this population of cougars is in decline, show me the numbers. Show me what the current population is. What was it? What is the rate of decline? You want to make sure that you support it with actual data. So be very specific with the information you're using and make sure it's coming from the source that you have credited for that information. That is very important.